There ain't no way you're bringing me down. Thought that you could keep me under, but I've been lifted up from the ground. And just in case you've ever wondered,
Mind's Eye Theatre is a collection of 12 dark stories, a warlock's brew of 12 eclectic tales, a gumbo of mood, menace, and macabre. It's a hardcover collection of horror story shorts with 84 original illustrations. And in 3 parts of Dark Thoughts, we discuss the stories, the craft of writing, and the teller of tales. Peter van der Walt, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for such a lovely introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. From the introduction, for as dark as these tales are, like all horror, they carry within them implied moral clarity, perhaps more than any other genre. Horror and moral clarity. Strange bedfellows, one would think. What do you mean when you say this?
Well, yes, if you think about the anti-hero as a figure, prevalent in thrillers, prevalent in dramas, a lot of moral grey areas, it's become very popular. Horror films traditionally associated with darkness and with the dark. But if you think about it, the line between good and evil in horror is very clear. There's an implied belief in good and evil. In a horror film, you don't think, well, I wonder who the good guy is. You know who the bad guy is. And in that way, horror is perhaps carries within it a moral clarity that's much more forceful than many other genres, I'd say.
From the themes in the toy box, listening to what's said in Freak Show, the sheer hopelessness and inhumanity of better angels. A lot of the stories are really emotionally heavy. You wouldn't necessarily think to find them in a book of ghosts and hauntings. Yeah, they really seem to naturally fit. Maybe even enhance a story. Why include these heavy themes within your stories?
I'll defer to C.S. Lewis on this. He said that we do not tell children fairy tales and stories about dragons because we need to convince them that dragons exist. Children know that dragons exist. We tell them these stories to teach them that dragons can be beaten. There is a tendency to make light of horror as a genre. It's never taken seriously. It's never given its due. At the Academy Awards, it's always difficult to give an award to a horror film, and yet horror leads the way in many respects. But horror draws on subconscious horror. It draws on the horrors of real life. And there are horrific things in real life. When I sit down and I come up with dreams and these dark stories, and yet there's nothing I can do to shock as much, to be as dark, to be as oppressive, to be as scary as real life. We use stories to deal with, to cope with the real horrors. Sometimes the vampires are easier to cope with than the abusive spouse. Sometimes it's easier to fight dragons than it is to fight the real darkness in the world. So these stories might just be little horror tales, but all of them tries to deal with something real. There's something real underneath, or I try to at least bring something real underneath all of them.
The stories are quite eclectic. They're deep, dark, raw. Are you worried that rawness is going to scare off some of your readers?
No. I think that's the brand. I think in a short story you have a very little space, and you can deliver one payload. It's a one punch or a 1-2 punch at most. And I like the intensity. I think that's what I do. I do intense fiction. In a novel, you might have to pace it a bit because it's a marathon and not a sprint. But in a short story, I like to deliver the payload and have it there. I'm fully aware that won't be for everyone. But I've always thought of my readership as quite brave. They're willing to go there. So this is not for people who need trigger warnings or safe spaces. These are for people that are brave enough to say, let's go. Let's go where no one else would dare to go. That's my readership, and that's for whom I deliver.
Let's go. I love that. Let's go. Thinking about all those stories, which type of stories are the hardest to write?
What? I really struggle with supernatural things. It's very difficult for me to write about supernature because I like to be grounded in a lot of realism. So it's quite difficult for me to take myself very seriously when we get into supernature. So that to me is the challenge, to present sometimes on the supernatural tales, to present those as realistic. It's easier in a dystopian future or in a thriller kind of environment, like a serial killer story or a dystopian future. It's easy to be deep and dark there. But to be deep and dark when you're being supernatural is quite hard because I'm not really scared by those things. So for me, it's not enough that there's an element of the supernatural to make something scary. It has to be something else that makes it scary. And mining to find the scariness that's underneath sometimes the camp costume of scariness. Not enough to just have the monster. The monster has to be truly terrifying. And I think in modern horror tropes, people rely too much on the monster and letting the monster do the work. They're not willing to find the monstrous and bring that out. So it's hard for me sometimes to bring a sense of realism to things that I know, I don't believe in the supernatural necessarily.
That's really interesting, actually. The belief in it brings the deeper storylines for you.
Yes. If it cannot possibly happen, if it cannot possibly be real, then it has no sting. I'd like someone, even if I'm telling a story, it's completely impossible. They need to be able to see, I can buy that this could happen or has happened or will happen. That's important. It's that realism that gives it its punch, I feel.
Oh, I love that. Mm. Now, my favourite story was Better Angel. I was sucked into Better Angel. I was reading through it, and I think that last paragraph was like a power punch to my stomach. Honestly, it made me sit up and I exclaimed out loud, "Oh my goodness." And it all came together. I had to go back and reread it. Tell me a little bit more about that particular story.
Bleakness. I mean, I had another reader talk to me about that and said they hated it because it felt so hopeless. And I think that is that one punch that I wanted to deliver with Better Angels. It's the sense of hopelessness. So that's the setting. It's a setting in which there is no hope. And there's a man that finds himself inside that setting. And everything around this man dehumanizes him. He is on the losing side of a war. Or rather, he's on the side that has lost a war. So he's completely on his own and he's demonized as he moves through life. If you demonize people long enough, at some point they'll oblige. You cannot tell someone that they're the bad guy over and over and over again and expect them to be good. At some point they'll say, okay, I will earn the reputation you've given me. I will become what you say I am. And this is a man that has lost all hope, does not believe he can be good, and starts seeing everyone around him as hopeless creatures. He can dehumanize everyone around him as much as he himself has become dehumanized. So it's a bit of a warning, I suppose. We're very quick to judge and very quick to assign people into categories, and this category of person is good and that category of person is bad. And all people who are like this are like, and all people who are like that are like that. And I think it's a very dangerous game to play, because at some point people believe you and they start acting accordingly.
Peter, tell me, I'm really intrigued. The Magic Hour is the only real story that includes a classic monster. None of the others do. Have you got something against classic monsters?
That's a good question. I think I might. I understand the need to make money, because in order to tell stories sustainably, one must make some money. But I despise the laziness that tells the same story over and over and over. And I think there's many stories that have already been told. And I think when you have a monster that's such a classic monster, we know the story. We know the story of Dracula as well as we know the story of Batman. And I think it becomes boring if all you do is regurgitate the same old tropes over and over and over. Vampire-wise, how many different kinds of vampires do we have? Not saying that some of them aren't well executed, but you've got everything from Nosferatu, the pestilence of Eggers that he just made his film about, to the sexy young teenager of the Twilight vampire, to the New Orleans Anne Rice ones of the Interview with the Vampire. Where else can you go? I mean, it's been told in so many ways. I'm bored with the traditional. So I was quite tired of traditional monsters, and I don't think I have a sign above my desk that says I will never tell the same story twice. What I did like about the zombie is that the zombie as a monster has become something else from its origins. Zombies these days tend to be diseased. 28 weeks, days, years later, the idea that there's some sort of World War Z, some sort of rabies escaped, and now the people that are zombies are really sick. And they want, but that is not the origin story of the zombie. The origin story of the zombie sits with voodoo and West African magic. And I found that part of the zombie myth appealing, because even though that's the origin of the zombie, that's not the zombies you see portrayed. So I think that excuses my use of a classical monster, just to go back to the origin of that monster. That was, for me, ironically, a fresher take than simply regurgitating something we all know we should be scared of, and therefore we get lazy and just put that up and there, now be scared. I think that's lazy storytelling. So I like to rather find the monstrous in what is ordinary, or find something truly monstrous and lifting that out, rather than relying on the old tropes.
So Peter, talk to me about happy endings. They seem to be a bit lacking in this book. Can you tell me why?
I love happy endings, but the thing with short stories is, again, it's a one punch or a 1-2 punch. You have to leave things very often unresolved in the short story. And the thing is, there's so little space. I need to leave you with that one impression, in this case, horror. It's very hard to leave you with the impression of horror if I end it happily. So in a novel, perhaps, I certainly strive, or in a movie I might even strive, although in horror movies it's very often the case that the killer stands back up at the end. So I don't mind happy endings. I love happy endings. But in order for the magic to work, sometimes you don't have happy endings. Sometimes you have bad endings. And I think in short stories in particular, if it's horror short stories, the happy ending will be a rare phenomena, simply because you have so little to work with, so little space. So to create fear in you and give you a happy ending, that's already 2 bits. I think it's too much work to do a happy ending.
I see. Yeah.
But I do love, I love happy endings. But yeah, sometimes you just, you can't make it happen. You try, but sometimes you don't succeed. Sometimes the darkness wins.
Oh, the darkness wins. I like that. Yeah. The home stretch. Thinking of the home stretch and human empathy. Have you got something against human empathy? Do you see that as a weakness?
Mm-hmm. I don't. But the antagonist in Homestretch does. For me, Homestretch is about an alien intelligence that is really watching us as if we're a lab experiment. In alien invasion stories, we often get this thing where we are evenly matched, or close to evenly matched. There's a war, the UFOs come, we mobilize our armed forces. There's a fight. Realistically, if an alien intelligence has the technology to come here, we won't be equally matched. This is not a case of having a fight. We would be like cockroaches in a lab for them, and they're examining what we're about. And in that sense, human empathy is a trait of humanity, and there might be intelligences that use the traits of humanity against humanity. So we might see it as a strength or as a weakness. It's just something about humans. We sometimes care, we sometimes have empathy, we sometimes have compassion, and it's a wonderful thing. But there might be beings that are unimpressed, and that might even exploit it. The good can be exploited as much as the bad. And I think that's what that was about. So it's not so much that I oppose human empathy. But empathy is also, like anything else, can be abused, misused, exploited, weaponized.
Weaponized, yeah.
Weaponized empathy, yeah. We see that a lot around the world these days. Yeah.
If we look through the interweaving themes of all of these stories, there's woven together with fear, lots of fear in one book. Are you a fearful person, Peter? And what do you fear the most?
I'm not a fearful person. But anything can induce fear. You take what is natural and normal and you stretch it just a little bit this way or a little bit that way, and it becomes something perverse or grotesque. I'm not a naturally fearful person, and yet I'm terrified of sharks. And I'm terrified of spiders. And I'm terrified of people who are stronger than me with weapons hiding in the dark. And I'm terrified of natural disasters. And I'm terrified of war. And I'm terrified of hunger. And I'm terrified of injustice. But I'm not a fearful person. Fear is a universal human emotion. It's probably one of the first emotions we experience. And it's a very useful emotion. I don't understand syndromes. I don't understand things like depression. I know I'm not a therapist, so I don't have to. But I don't understand just constantly being down. I understand sadness, but I don't understand that I'm perpetually down. To me, emotion has a charge, and that charge usually has a utility. I get angry because when I get angry, things change. I get sad because I've lost something and there's an experience that I'm dealing with. And I get fearful when my gut warns me, when something is off, when something is not right. Watch out for this. Be careful here. So I think fear is a very useful emotion. It's a very good emotion, and it helps us. What do I fear? Gee, everything and nothing. I'm fearless in a lot of ways. But I suppose when I was very young, I saw Jaws, and I have a completely irrational fear of sharks. Completely irrational.
So we won't be seeing you jumping into a shark cage and going in the sea?
You won't see me in the sea.
Full stop.
Full stop. Mm-hmm. I will see sharks, whether they are there or not. And that just goes to show how fear itself can be a negative thing and an irrational thing. So there is something like a phobia. There is something like irrational fear, dangerous fear, self-sabotaging fear. And luckily, mine happens to be quite a convenient phobia, because I don't have to swim in the sea. But I think fear can be a very useful, very healthy thing, like anger. We tend to see it as a negative thing. And then also there's a thing about fear that makes people completely riveted by it. If you watch people when they watch a horror film, you can watch them when they watch a drama, yes, they're engaged, or they watch a thriller or a crime story and they're engaged. But when you actually scare them, you will never see people as riveted to a screen as when there's something fearful going on. Fear is a very strong emotion. It demands attention. And I'm quite a fan.
Yeah. That's quite palpable, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's one of those emotions that sweep everything else clean. Things become very clear very quickly when you're fearful. You suddenly focus only on the fear. It's dominant in that way. And that's, I suppose, the good thing about it, but also the risky thing about it, that you see nothing else and you're just consumed by fear, which is not a good thing. Of course, we tell stories of little fears so that we can deal with the fears in a way that's not really, you're not really in harm's way when you're dealing with your fears through a story, a movie or a book or a short story. So kids love it. Around the campfire, one of the first things they do is tell scary stories, and you can try to prevent them, and you can try to not, let them expose them, but kids love it. So there's something exciting and subversive and a little naughty about fear, that makes it very popular. So yeah, but I'm not a fearful person, no.
Le Soup Freud.
Cold soup.
The cold soup, yes. I mean, that really, to me, seems to be the least likely of a horror story to have included. But it's truly horrifying when we think about it. Why did you include it in the collection?
We like to externalize what is offensive to us or what makes us scared. We like to other that which makes us uncomfortable. It's like saying someone is a Nazi. Because you see, a Nazi can do anything. They're horrible people. And they have no moral compass. And they're evil. And they're terrible. Not like us, you see. Us in those scenarios, we would not have acted the way they have acted. We would have chosen differently. We would have chosen wisely. Even if our entire society around us steered us a certain way, we would be more moral than they ever were. We wouldn't be as fallible as they were. We like to create this illusion that there's things that make us better than the monsters, that make us more noble, more moral, more ethical. And the truth is that anyone can be a monster, given the right set of circumstances, given the right environment, given the right motivations. Anyone can be a monster. Cold Soup is essentially, spoiler alert, Cold Soup is essentially a revenge story. But it is someone who prepares the revenge exquisitely. For her, it's not just about satisfying a basic, simple, childish need for revenge. For her, revenge is exquisite. It's a dish, it's a gourmet dish. One that involves many ingredients and a process that takes a long time to make it very, very delicious.
And best served cold.
Best served very cold, very cold. Take your time to be a monster.
Oh, you almost took my breath away there. Yeah.
Some dark stuff. But yes, I think we do suffer we do live under the illusion that we're somehow, we're the good guys. And everybody believes they're the good guys. Everybody's the hero in their own story. Everybody thinks that, my side, politically, socially, culturally, they're the good guys. And your side's slightly weird. When my people make mistakes, well, that's a once-off. But when your people make mistakes, that's typical. There is this thing of us and them, and us necessarily being the normal, good, moral, kind people, and those other people being the horrible, treacherous dragons. So that's really Cold Soup.
Peter, I want to know, and I know everyone else wants to know, what's next for Mind's Eye Theatre?
Well, Mind's Eye Theatre started just as this book originally, and it's become a product line. So we're doing short films in addition to the short stories. And we're making about 4 of them in the new year. And this book is going to be it for this year, but we'll have a volume 2 of Mind's Eye Theatre short stories. However, Mind's Eye Theatre will also be the short films. So Mind's Eye Theatre is definitely at the beginning. It's become a line instead of just one book. There's now going to be lots of it. All short, though. Short films and short stories. So we'll have volume 2 come out in 2027, and the short films in the meantime.
That's very exciting.
Very exciting.
The expansion
of
the Mind's Eye Theatre. That's something to really look forward to.
It's become bigger. It's certainly become bigger. And I've got readers to thank for that.
And
So,
just in
thank
case
you.
you've ever wondered.
Yeah, I tell the truth. Pull up and tanks, just me and the troops. This ain't nothing new. Yeah, team getting smaller, we down to a few. When you see us, salute us. I've been in the water with shots, been recruiters in ears. Life getting real. Off with the lights, but we bet the city on heels. Closer to God, I just gotta be. When I wasn't, my thoughts, they were hunting me. It was all of them, only one of me. These days I'm watching who's in my company, yeah. No plans of slowing my foot on the gas. Like, yeah, in Wyoming when I'm in my bag. I beat up these tracks, they blue and they black. I see that you kept me, you knew that I snapped.
There ain't no way you're bringing me down. Thought that you could keep me under, but I've been lifted up from the ground. And just in case you've ever wondered, there ain't no way you're bringing me down. Thought that you could keep me under, but I've been lifted up from the ground. Just in case you've ever
That's on God.
wondered.
Look, hard times couldn't stop me, never. If anything, I took it up a level. Like in God I trust, I came back with a buck. Cause when times got tough, I got better. World fell apart, so we had to rebuild. Work all the time, but I'm salary still. Juggling, hustling, wondering how I'm gonna shell out for promise and pay for these bills. Well, if you gotta know, I'm running the audible. And it's harder cause I'm picking up the charges for shopping out of the garbage. And popping the talk for talking out of my promise. Regardless, I gotta finish what I started for real. Up next, who knows, but I'm trying to blow. I mean, I'm down for the climb, just give me the rope. And if I fall, they gon' all your Geronimo. But watch me come right back like the prodigal. Cause I ain't never been a quitter, just put it on God. People try to kill my dreams, but didn't survive. And I would never sell my soul for a piece of the pie. Well, I made the vision clear, Felicia Rashad. No cap, my decision a roadmap. Funny how it all just begun. Yeah, it took a while to be sure, but I'm back with a force and I'm good when it's all said and done.
Ain't no way you're bringing me down. Thought that you could keep me under, but I've been lifted up from the ground. And just in case you